On the last stream, Jake and I talked about our favorite commander cards from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. You got to see this discussion. We went through 20-something cards. This set has got a lot of power, and we need to talk about it. 70% of the people watching this video are not subscribed, and that's okay, but if you want to join the 30% and really help us out with just the click of a button, click that subscribe button. If you like the video at any given point, give me just a second to thank our Patreon for supporting us on our road to do this as our full-time jobs, and we'll be right back with the Ixalan Caverns commander cards that we really like. We have got Ixalan commander cards. We've gone through the main set, not the commander set that is adjacent to the main set, but the main set. And we have pulled some of our favorite playables. Starting here with Oer Cassum, Deepest Growth. Green 3 for a 6/5 trampling god. Says, whenever Oer deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards from the top of your library. You can put a creature card and or a land card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order, and when it dies, you return it to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control. That's right, you guessed it. It's a land called Temple of Cultivation. Taps for a green, and then this is what is critical about this one. Pay 3 and tap it, transform it back. Activate only if you control 10 or more permanents and only as a sorcery. This is this cycle of lands. They all kind of do this thing. They have a really cool ability that is unique to them on the front, and then on the back they tap for a color of mana and do some crazy effect, more often than not, returning the OG creature to the battlefield. Jake, this one's very like creature based, not your thing, but
oh no,
it's powerful, right?
It's good, man. It's extremely good. I mean, like the thing is I think, you know, a lot of people think I don't like creatures, and in Commander that's true because, you know, one of my favorite ways to play the game is limited, whether it's sealed or draft. And so, you know, obviously the limited player in me sees this card and I'm like, well, this card is fantastic, right?
Right.
Get this on, front-loaded text. Like, this card becomes chill as soon as it does its thing, right? Then you have to sink mana into it in order to make it something that's interesting again. In Commander, this is a card that's like, you get so much velocity getting a creature and a land.
Yeah, dude.
And then it's like you do have to transform it back in order to get to do it again. But yeah, it's an excellent card. I mean, I definitely see why it's mythic. And I would, if I was playing a creature-centric deck, if I was playing like big stuff and ramp, I can't think of a better card to include.
Yeah, that's almost word for word what I was going to say. In a Fires of Yavimaya deck or a deck that runs Rhythm of the Wild, if you take this I can't, swing it's just one of the best creatures I've ever seen for I give all my stompy stuff haste and trample deck.
It's no power creep too, because it's like, yes, sure, it's a mythic, but look at what it does.
Yeah.
It comes in and if it had haste, that would just be bonkers. So put it in something with haste.
Easy peasy. Next up, Throne of the Grim Captain. Jake, tell us about this one.
A legendary artifact you can tap to mill 2 and then craft with a dinosaur, a merfolk, a pirate, and a vampire. So for 4, exile this artifact, exile the 4 from among permanents you control and or cards in your graveyard. Return this card transformed under its owner's control, craft only as a sorcery.
So you craft it and it turns into
a 7/7 with Menace, Trample, Lifelink, and Hexproof, which is a pretty nice suite of abilities, the best of which are, well, I mean, they're all great.
In Commander, dude, that set of abilities is so insanity. It's just so good.
You know what I want this card to have is a Rune Chanter's Pike, but let me continue telling you about it. Whenever the Grim Captain attacks, each opponent sacrifices a non-land permanent. Then you may put an exiled creature card used to craft the Grim Captain onto the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking. So pretty wild.
Yeah, so this one is very interesting to me because it's got a black color identity because of the back of it, but on the front it's colorless. I just wanted everybody to know, and I tweeted about this earlier today, that if you want to rule 0 this as your commander, go right ahead. And if you want to add color to its color identity to make that deck at least work, go right ahead. Craft with a dinosaur, a merfolk, a pirate, and a vampire. So you got to get a dinosaur, a merfolk, a pirate, and a vampire, all either on the battlefield or in your graveyard. then pay 4 and exile those, and you get like one of the best creatures that you could get. Menacing, trampling, life-linking, hexproof thing.
So
and
like obviously
you're putting
with
stuff
like
in
changelings,
back.
right?
Oh,
like
that's definitely a way to build it for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
You would want to go like if you're trying to make this work in something that is I would probably just go changelings.
Yeah,
that's kind of a tall order to find those 4 cards.
Oh, dude, that's what I'm saying. This is going to be a bulk rare. It's not really playable, but if anybody wants to rule 0 this is their commander and even add some color to the identity, not to like go run every tip-top card in every tip-top color, but to pull off specifically the dinosaur merfolk pirate vampire thing to get your Grim Captain, the command zone, I'm completely fine. Let's move on to an uncommon, the Dusk Rose Reliquary. Y'all, keep in mind that this is 1 mana. I just want you to keep that in mind as we go through this. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. It's got Ward 2, and when it ETBs, exile target artifact or creature an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. I think that for 1 mana, this is just really ridiculous value. You're going to want to build it into something where that first line of text is beneficial to you and not a detriment. That's where this goes. But as a 1 mana removal, exile target artifact or creature. It just hides it under here like an O-ring. And it has Ward 2.
Dude, the Ward 2 is just so nice.
Exactly. So it's like, I could destroy it. It's going to cost me 2 more mana. That puts me off playing my 4-drop this turn because I've got X amount of mana. And so I think that this is an interesting little piece of tech. And I always like to pull out uncommons from these sets that I think are interesting tech because typically they just won't get coverage otherwise because there's so much magic so quickly, so all the time. But
you know what's cool
cute
about it? I do too. I'm thinking of different ways where this card can be very annoying.
Yeah.
It's easy to get back. It's low cost, so it's easy to blink, right? In a situation where you can blink permanents, it's on par with like the best white removal spells as far as casting costs go. Now it's not instant speed like Path and Swords because it's an artifact, but it is 1 cost. So if you want to, like, in a way, tempo somebody and have a removal that you can, in theory, get back to your hand in some situations, or, like I said, blink, then this could be a really good card for you.
Right.
Because,
take their in that case, take their Soul Ring out early and then blink it back and take out their big creature or something.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that it isn't like restrictive to with converted mana cost 3 or less, if it's like a creature, because typically a card with a low casting cost like this might have a restriction like that. This just says exile target creature, you know? So yeah, I think there's something good here. This seems like a strong card.
Pretty interesting one.
Next up, we have Starving Revenant, 2 black and 2 other for 4/4 Spirit Horror. And when Starving Revenant enters the battlefield, surveil 2. Then for each card you put on top of your library, you draw a card and you lose 3 life. And it has Descend 8. Whenever you draw a card, if there are 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it has a big ability for later in the game, but it has some nice card draw on it, which is pretty cool.
Descend is counting permanents. It's not like Threshold that counted everything. You specifically need permanents in the graveyard to get that 8 off. But late in the game, yeah, it's a drain that comes back. And you've got this Surveil 2 on a 4-drop that's going to let you potentially draw 2 cards. You got to drop some life off, but, you know, and 6 is not nothing, especially for 2 cards. Typically, 2 life will get you 2 cards. But then you tack onto it an extra Aristocrat's effect that is just pinging additionally. You know, at the very least, Nekusar is like, hey, baby, welcome home. Come on in. The water's fine.
Well, here's the thing is, like, it has that life loss on it. Right. But once you get to the second line of text, you are gaining life at that point. So yeah, I think that it works. I think that there's a balance here.
Yeah, I like all the value presented for just a 4-mana creature. I think that over time, a lot of cards from this set are going to get played in a lot of different places. Much like Get Lost. It's going to be played in a lot of places. 2 mana. Instant speed. Destroy target creature, enchantment, or planeswalker. We do not care about the remainder of the text.
Yeah.
Additionally, it says its controller creates 2 map tokens, which are artifacts with pay 1, tap it, sack it. Target creature you control explores, activate at sorcery speed. 2 mana, destroy target creature, enchantment, or planeswalker. Instant speed. And the card is titled Get Lost. Oh, baby.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is a world where this card is like very desirable. Maybe it's CEDH. Typically CEDH is fine with a card having a drawback. In Commander, when you're in one of those games where really like the board state is super clogged, I don't see the drawback being that big of a deal.
I don't see the drawback being that big of a deal in a lot of situations in Commander.
Yeah, like let's say this as well. You know, what if they don't have a creature? Then it's just like a nothing. You know, it just sits there. Like
what
if
is
it happens after a board wipe.
1/1/1 counter? Or none. And they just, I mean, it's like they don't even guarantee themselves a card. Clues guarantee a card draw. Treasures ramp them. I mean, dude, like the only thing that I could ask for more, I'd be like maybe 2 food tokens. But honestly, I feel like them gaining that life, I'm like, I'd rather them be able to explore whenever they want to. Who cares?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, Lark says this is insane. Most decks don't even play creatures in older formats. So yeah, I mean, this is I definitely think that there's something very strong here. So
yeah, people will be telling their opponents' creatures, enchantments, and planeswalkers to get lost.
Would you like the card if it were white instead of 1 white, 1 other?
Yeah, I would. But I don't evaluate pips correctly. I always get yelled at for being like, it's white, blue. We can do it.
Yeah. Chat, do you think that this is good enough for CEDH? I feel like it's got a nice suite of abilities. The fact that it's got Planeswalker on there, I would like it even if it just said creature or enchantment.
What was the one that's very similar to this that had Sorin in the art? Because that one was its controller investigates. And I don't think that it hit enchantments. I think it was just destroy target creature or planeswalker. Its controller investigates. And that card was seeing play. Fateful Absence. Thank you, Lillian.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Fateful Absence was seeing play. And so Strictly Better probably gets put in decks. I don't know.
Yeah, enchantment is a big deal, dude. Enchantment is just so nice to have on there.
Oh, no, like, Mirror, I'm talking Commander. I don't know CEDH. I'm not speaking to CEDH.
Like, artifact aside, you know, most of the time if I'm using a disenchant, I feel like it's hitting, or like a disenchant type effect, it's probably hitting an enchantment. So having creature stapled on a disenchant is just stupid, right? It's very good.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's really, really fun.
Yeah, next up we have Scytheclaw Raptor, 1 red, 2 other for a 4/3 dino. Whenever a player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, Scytheclaw Raptor deals 4 damage to them. Oh baby. This is nice.
I'm so glad
this speaks to me, man.
I'm so glad you got to read this one, because you don't just play this effect in a vacuum. You play this effect alongside a lot of effects like this, and doublers and triplers.
This is pretty wild, but when we were, just a very quick story, we can edit this out of the cut.
Sure.
But when we were at Summit, we were playing in a pod versus a couple of the guys from Kingdoms. And it was really funny because Show and Tell got played on turn 3. And I put a City on Fire onto the battlefield on turn 3.
Turn 3, City on Fire.
Yeah, turn 3, and then followed up. That's right. Followed up turn 4 with a Mana Barbs. So this is like the kind of card that you would play alongside that. If you don't put that together, Mana Barbs with City on Fire, every land is dealing 3 damage whenever to its controller whenever it's
lightning
tapped.
bolt yourself to tap for 1 mana.
That's right.
It's
So-
super sweet.
So it's a really fun way to like get in quick games. But Scytheclaw Raptor, this fits into a shell like that. You
Right.
just want this effect to be reverberated. You want to play this after you have a board state. That way it's kind of like a lock, and you would want to play it along other similar effects.
Yep. Damage doublers and triplers, Punisher cards, taxes
Yeah.
that all have to do with damage and life. You get to play this card. And they found your senior picture for this art, Jake. That's pretty crazy. That's awesome.
Why do you always got to bring that up? You always got to bring this up.
It's a good shot of you. We are seeing literally your entire inside of your mouth. Literally all of it.
Yeah, I used to do those jaw competitions where I would try to like, be like, get my jaw going.
What shows?
Yeah.
It
Well,
shows.
this is an old picture. I've retired from that. Now all I have is an old injured jaw.
Why are you? I don't want to narc you out, but why are your eyes so red in this picture?
That would have been probably from all of the reefer.
Helping Hand is a 1 mana sorcery. It
Yeah.
says return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. 1 mana. Mana value 3 or less straight onto the battlefield. Jake, did you Ewit this game? Do you want to Ewit again?
Yeah, this is pretty fun, dude. This is a pretty fun little card here. For a lot of I also think that this is going to be the kind of thing where, like, say your win con or some sort of important little 2 or 3 drop
Combo piece.
Yeah, man. I think that this has combo piece potential as well, even though it's at sorcery speed, which is a little bit annoying, but I still think it's strong.
Yeah, Lillian in chat said, now this is a CEDH card. Yeah, dude. You get your little 1, 2, or 3 mana combo enabler
Yeah.
into the graveyard.
slow.
This is
It's slow.
redundancy. You're good to go.
Yeah, if it were instant speed, it would just be stupid.
It would just be stupid. I mean, think
the
about
most broken
Reanimate.
thing
Think
that
about
exists.
Animate Dead. Think about Raise Dead. Think about, like,
Yeah.
none of these are flashing in. They don't put flash on stuff like this. I think that you've got some flash of return in white, but it's like put in the graveyard this turn type of effects, Return
Right.
them back, bring back, whatever that is. Necromancy, yep, that's the only one, right? Insert name. Set it
Yeah,
in
because
chat.
like, for example, Unearth, it's a white Unearth, right? That's
Yeah.
what I'm seeing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's white on earth without the cycling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, but worse unearth Lark equals redundancy on effects, and redundancy on effects in a well-built deck means more victories because you more often hit your stuff that lets your things do the plan. That's what we
Well
think
said.
Helping Hand is, and I think it's pretty freaking good.
Yes, next up we have Intrepid Paleontologist, 1 green and 1 other for a 2/2 human druid. And it's a mana dork. Add 1 mana of any color on tap, and then for 2, you can exile target card from a graveyard. 2 and a colon. And you may cast dinosaur creature spells from among cards you own exiled with Intrepid Paleontologist. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters the battlefield with a finality counter on it. And what that is if a creature with a finality counter on it would die, exile it instead. This is just a card that's going to fit into any of your dinosaur decks. So if you're playing a dinos deck, you're probably going to want the Paleontologist. It's going to get you redundancy. And yes, your dinosaurs will get exiled if they die after this. But if you're in a pinch, I would imagine you just don't care and you're going to do it anyway.
I'm terrified of this card. I don't care about the whole bottom section. This is a 2 mana, 5 color mana dork that at 2 mana at will, you are completely taking the graveyard strategy deck out of the game.
Yeah, that's true. It gives you something to do with your mana, especially if you aren't being mana efficient. You just like need to nuke cards, or if you see a big haymaker in there and you know that somebody could be like, oh, well, reanimate Jin Cataxis, which is something that you love to do, Joel, for
Yes,
example.
sir.
And
You
then,
know what?
you would just do this in response.
I
And it
was
doesn't
gonna
even matter
say.
if it's tapped, which is great because
That's
you
what
can
I'm
use
saying,
it, play
dude.
your spells. And then, for 2 and a colon, you're just like, no, actually nuke that Jin-Kataxis. Sorry. It puts that player in a situation where they have to kill this first.
It
so
has
it's kind
to
of
be.
like.
And then you're going to, on the way
Yeah.
out, okay, in response, remove all your threats in your graveyard. Yeah, I mean, another way to look at the top suite of abilities here is pay 1, tap Intrepid Paleontologist, exile target card from a graveyard. And so this one, like, I just don't care about the rest of the text. I think if your meta is got somebody who is in their reanimator phase, this is the kind of stuff you start turning to.
That's right.
This card, frankly, scares the shit out of me. I don't want instant speed graveyard removal anywhere near me. Get it out of here. I think this is a good card. I think this is going to be one of the sleepers.
Chat, can you think of anybody who is in their reanimator phase on this channel? Leave it in the comments.
Moving on to Abuelo, Ancestral Echo. A blue, a white, and a 1 for a 2/2 flying ward 2 spirit that at will, no tapping here, for a blue, a white, and 1. You can exile another target creature or artifact you control, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, make target Joel mauled until he passes out. This blink is just ridiculous, man.
That's right. And shout out to that 1 white artifact that we just talked about earlier in this very video that you're watching.
Yep.
This is a perfect way to use that. Blink this. Here's a legendary creature that you can play that lets you just simply do blinking things without being too oppressive, in my opinion. I think that this card is really fun. I think it's fair, and I think it's a good time. I would actually consider building this. I like the ward too as well.
Like blink effects that you can do at will and for only 3 mana. Like that
it's
is
scary when you get to like an unlimited mana kind of thing, right?
Dude, or just like even once they're on 6 or 9 and can do this to like 2 things that I'm trying to target down, you know, it's just like, ugh, man.
You can protect your stuff. And then especially if you're running something like Training Grounds, even to mitigate 1 of that and turn it into a white and a blue, right?
Yes. I'm telling you.
Because then we're into very dangerous territory where this deck is not at all fun to play against. And it's just, you're dead.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think of the name of an Eldrazi. It's Eldrazi Displacer. How much have people played Eldrazi Displacer? Because it is a 3 ability that makes a thing blink. And now we have that on a legendary with Ward 2 that has a relevant creature type, especially to this archetype. This is one that I think people will not underestimate it. I think they will estimate it, but I think they need to estimate it a little harder because this is a big deal that this exists now.
Keto is saying Soul Cauldron. Are you talking about Agatha's Soul Cauldron?
Put the things in the graveyard, exile them with the Soul Cauldron.
Get the abilities, do the things.
Yeah, so Abuelo Ancestral Echo, I really think is probably... I would need to see it in action alongside... I've seen a lot of Brago decks. I would need to see Abuelo deck in action, but Brago has to attack and connect, right? Doesn't Brago have to connect as well? Not that that's like the hardest thing. Yeah, it deals combat damage to the player. When Brago deals combat damage. Like, oh my god, Travis, that's a huge point. Dungeons are already broken. It's such a broken mechanic because it's just value.
Yeah,
all of that mechanic is so represented by ETB stuff. Oh my god, dude. Yeah. This is got... Tyler said not even as a combo piece, just to protect things. Right. The utility of Blink is why I hate it so much. It is so strong, dude. It is so strong. Extra ETBs, protection, it's offense and it's defense. Abuelo's just good. Look, you're gonna hate playing against it, or you're gonna love playing it. That's gonna be pretty much your experience with Abuelo, the Echo that is Ancestral. Real quick, want to thank our sponsor on the channel, Card Conduit. If you need an easy way to sell your cards in bulk, check out cardconduit.com. They do all the work for you, and they only take a small fee. Or you can do a little work yourself, and they take even smaller fees to sell your cards to the best buy lists across the entire internet. Go to cardconduit.com, check them out. Tell them Jake and Joel sent you. You want to talk about a busted creature, Jake? Here you go.
I'm gonna say Bartolome.
Yeah, let's go with Bartolome del Presidio.
Del Presidio, legendary creature, Vampire Knight. It's a 2/1 for 1 black and 1 white, and sacrifice another creature or artifact. Put a 1/1 counter on this creature. So pretty big deal there. It just fits into any sort of aristocrats type build. It's just another piece. I feel like that deck is getting to a point where it's just like, where do we make cuts? It's
like
all
the
redundancy.
Enchantress deck. Yeah, dude. The Aristocrats deck and the Enchantress deck is pretty much just like solved at this point. It's what flavor of that you want to go. It's like, oh yeah, you got options within each.
Yeah, exactly, dude. So this for me is just like, yeah, this is cool. It's generically good, and it looks like a whole bunch of cards that I've seen before, but it may fit into that deck. I think
it immediately grabs a spot in that deck, in my opinion. Yeah, just for the fact that it's an instant speed sack outlet with no limitation. Back in my day, you had to pull a card with the word alter on it to be able to sack creatures at instant speed and take advantage of all of your little tokens on the battlefield when the opponent goes to board wipe. But Bartolome is here to be like, feed me, Seymour.
Exactly. It's like a strictly worse Viscera Seer, but if you need more Viscera Seer effects, then just here's another one, you know, right?
Get it, baby. And if it's not a board wipe you're responding to, Bartolome gets big and gives a threat. Then you can start taking counters off via other cards, doing extra damage. It gets silly fast. Instant speed, uncommon, sack outlet, really something I'm a fan of. Molten Collapse, Jake. Let's take Dreadbore and add more words. A red, a black, and a sorcery speed. Choose one card. It says if you descended this turn, you may choose both instead. And descended means you put a permanent card into your graveyard from anywhere. You have descended if a permanent card was put into your graveyard from anywhere. So,
all right.
If you descended, you get to choose both. Otherwise, you're choosing one. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, or destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. Y'all, there are a lot of targets that are mana value 1 or less that aren't creatures or lands that this eats. Every of the best mana rocks. All of your some of your worst enchantments that are just going to get ridiculous. Yes, this card was probably built for modern. I don't know, maybe Pioneer. It's definitely, it seems like a sideboard card.
It's pretty sweaty, dude. Yes. It's pretty sweaty, and I do think that certain, I think it's probably a CEDH card.
That is the base, like the biggest point about Molten Collapse is I think this goes through Commander Casual and right to CEDH as for effective, because in Casual you're not going to get a ton of targets for that second ability, and you're really like, you want to like fetch, destroy their utility creature.
Bro, I like it for the choose one. I like the Descended is great, but I like it for the choose one as is. It hits Soul Ring. It hits freaking any creature, any planeswalker. Yeah. It is sorcery speed, so it's like a very like terrible terminate, right? It's a Dreadbore. It's a Dreadbore with more words. So yeah, it's a Dreadbore with more words. But, you know, the Descended is like, yeah, you can make that happen. That's a thing that could happen. But I'm fine with it. I'm the choose one.
Yeah, Descended is cool. I remember when mine descended. That was a pretty good day. Squirming Emergence is up next, Jake. And this is actually a baby photo of yours, right?
That's right. Exactly. I grew in from this into the dinosaur that you saw earlier in the video. Thank you, Joel. We're going right through my entire family history.
I don't know how they got the pictures, man. I'm reporting the news. I don't create the news. I just report the news.
You report something. Well, let's talk about this the Squealing Emergence that we see here. 1 green, 1 black, 1 other for sorcery. Fathomless Descent. We've talked about Descent. Now we're going to dive to a fathomless level of it. Fathomless Descent. Return to the battlefield target non-land permanent card in your graveyard with mana value less than or equal to the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. So, return to the battlefield. Target non-land permanent card in your graveyard with mana value less than or equal to the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. So for 3 mana, you are going to be able to, especially if you're playing, pretty hefty graveyard deck. You've got like 15 cards in there. Go grab any of it, put it back on the battlefield.
3 mana, dude. 3 mana.
It's pretty wild, man.
3 mana. I mean,
reanimating
this in this year, in God's 2023, the year of the Phyrexian invasion. How dare you give us 3 mana reanimate spells? I don't care about all the clauses. I'll get there. I'm milling 10, baby. Let's rock and roll. 3 mana to return a permanent. Any permanent that's not a land. This just isn't even limited to creature. This card is busted, man. This card is busted. And the flavor text says, due to archaic Brazen Coalition guidelines regarding hats, a few mycoids are now technically pirate captains. That's pretty good flavor text.
Wow. Jeez. The flavor text is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Reanimate says creature. This has legs and 8 of them.
Hey.
Did you see what I did there? Because it's kind of like a squid.
Hey, visual jokes. If we turn this into a podcast, they won't get it. Hey.
That's right. All right.
Just for the benefit of the live audience, Zoyawa. How do you like that pronunciation? Can we live with it? Zoyoa?
Zoyoa.
Zoyoa?
Zoyoa.
This little goblin warlock is called Zoyoa. Lava Tongue. Red, black, 2/2. Death Touch. At the beginning of your end step, if they descended this turn, each opponent may discard a card or sacrifice a permanent. Zoyoa Lava Tongue deals 3 damage to each opponent who didn't. So Zoyoa sits on the sidelines, blocks for you perfectly with that Death Touch, and gives you value immediately on the turn you play it. As long as you had a permanent card enter your graveyard from anywhere, each opponent must discard a card or sack a permanent. We're hoping we're not playing token decks when we slam Zoyoa onto the battlefield, but then starts lightning bolt people in the face.
This is an interesting one. This is the kind of thing where if I'm building this, I'm probably putting damage amplification into it, like we've already talked about. Fiery Emancipation, City on Fire. There's tons of effects that are just like that, because if we are dealing 3 damage to each opponent who didn't, we want to get the most out of that damage. This as a commander is kind of low to the ground. Where do you see this really thriving, Joel? Do you see this in more of like the 99 of a deck, or as a commander itself?
I think this is a 99 card in Punisher strategies that use treasure tokens. Now answer me this. I'm looking at how this is worded. You descended if a permanent card was put into your graveyard from anywhere. Is that written like that just to make sure that it includes like mill? Or is it written that way to say that tokens aren't going to count for this? I don't believe I've seen this wording on here before, a permanent card. Typically you just see like in the first part of the text box, each opponent may discard a card or sacrifice a permanent. And so
because the token goes to the yard though, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying. And so but I'm not sure if permanent card is a rules thing. So I'm pretty sure that that's not going to count. So maybe treasure decks aren't going to be where this goes. Maybe just straight up mill deck, reanimator decks. But anything, I think it's a 99.
Buzz is saying tokens are not cards.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah, I think that we just need to make sure that this is in the 99 of one that's already going to be doing things like this and punishing opponents further. Honestly, it was just so interesting to me how many Karavik adjacent cards are in this set for you to
maybe they're trying to speed up Commander a little bit.
Yeah.
Get people playing cards that deal damage. They're like, we have too many board states that end up just being a bunch of creatures getting clogged on the battlefield. They're like, yeah. Chimil, the Inner Sun, for 6, you get a legendary artifact. This is a mythic. Spells you control can't be countered. Let's go. Sad blue players everywhere. At the beginning of your end step, discover 5. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with mana value 5 or less. Cast it without paying its mana cost, or put it into your hand with the rest on the bottom in a random order. This card is just strictly gas. It's just nutty.
Bro, you get... Okay, so Discover just absolutely blows my mind. They were like, y'all, I don't think Cascade is good enough. What if we made it so that the blanks were also good? So that the literal only downside of Cascade is now eliminated. I hate when Cascade players don't get a Cascade into something good. Aw, Cascade player. Aw.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like that, right?
And so we made better Cascade.
Pretty busted. Even though it's a 6 cost, when you're getting to 6, that's a pretty big deal. You need that to be an impactful.
But it's immediately saying no more counter spells for you. And at the end step, you don't have to wait until you upkeep and give everybody full opportunity to destroy this thing.
Sure.
They got to be packing instant speed removal for artifacts, and they got to have the mana to have it ready to roll.
Yeah.
Or you're
the
discovering
static ability on it is really nice. That spells you control can't be countered is just very, very nice.
Right. And Kito's point. Cheat this bitch out. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a big 6 mana legendary artifact. It's not meant to be cast for 6. It's meant to be like cheated onto the battlefield from the graveyard. Right.
Get it on turn 4. Yeah.
Chimil the Inner Sun I think is going to be interesting to play with. I'm wondering though, and I'm thinking that Caged Sun is going to be the one that stands the test of time more so. But we'll see.
Tell us about this meme.
The Millennium Calendar is on this list because the bottom of it says each opponent loses 1,000 life. I'm done analyzing this card. No, it's a 1 mana legendary artifact that says whenever you untap 1 or more permanents during your untap step, put that many time counters on the Millennium Calendar. 2, tap it, double the number of time counters on the Millennium Calendar. So that's just an activated ability. Pay 2, tap it, double the number of time counters on the Millennium Calendar. Then, final text here. When there are 1,000 or more time counters on the Millennium Calendar, sack it, and each opponent loses 1,000 life. I love...
This is so good in Two-Headed Giant, dude.
Oh, dude, and Two-Headed Giant's pretty sick. But look, that would make them lose 2,000 life. You're definitely securing the bag on that one, pal.
That's right.
Look, this is... really interesting. I don't think that it's going to be quite as difficult as it sounds to get the 1,000 counters on there with the pay to tap it. I mean, think you only gotta get 500 on there.
Laney, Laney says it. Who wants to do the math? And I'll say this: how much mana would we have to pay if we do no proliferation and we are just trying to double from the beginning of the game to the end? How much mana is it going to cost?
For the benefit only of our visual friends here, let me turn this off. Is this going to work?
10 activations.
Here we go. I got a calculator right here in the middle of the video. We're turning off the other stuff and we're doing the math. So
do the numbers, and then instead of saying equals, say activate.
Okay.
Tell me.
All right.
Do it like that. Are you ready?
Okay, we have 1 counter on it.
Yeah.
Times 2, activate. Now we have 2.
Okay.
×2. Activate. Here we go.
Good.
Activate.
Keep it going.
Activate.
Okay.
Activate. 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 We're done. We're at 1,024 counters.
It was 10, dude. Chat knew before us.
10.
But you
10,
know what?
We
We had to do the science ourselves.
That is how we
Now,
do
here's the
science
thing.
around here, by ourselves.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
10
that was really, really
activations.
tough.
10
So if you combine this
activations.
with stuff like doubling season,
Oh, wow.
you might get it down to 9.
No, you'll get it down to way less than that, because doubling
Would
the
it be?
number of time counters
Oh,
on
that's
it,
true.
you would go up by 200% instead of 100%, right?
Yeah. So if we're playing doubling season, yes, thank you. It is science.
Yeah.
Math is science. Everybody, that's why that they were always combined. You go to math and science class.
All you need is a calculator and a guide and tally things when you yell, and you can do math as much as you want as well. The Millennium Calendar, it's a win con for the
beautiful.
lols.
Is that a haiku?
Yes,
All right.
I only
Roaming
speak in
Throne.
haikus.
And this looks like something that probably like a few people on Earth already have. They're like, yeah, you know, once I hit billionaire status, I got my roaming throne, and I just kind of like walk around my island on that. It's awesome. So roaming throne 4/4/4/4. It's a golem with ward 2. As roaming throne enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Roaming throne is the chosen type in addition to its other types. If a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. Well, what do we know about doubling that we just talked about? It can be really OP. So get the most out of your triggers with your roaming throne.
Panharmonicon for creature types. Redundancy on a creature type deck that has to do with a lot of ETBs rocking and rolling. Elementals comes to mind. Elementals have a lot of ETB creatures. You know, elves. I really think that.
Yeah, you know, it's pretty fun. You know, just thinking about how a lot of the time when you get, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to get this out before I forget it. But when you think about it, you know, you have all of these different creature types that typically, you know, you get something that like buffs them. You get an anthem for them. This is a fun card that's different from that, right? We have a card that's just like, okay, here's something for triggered abilities that also fits into, you know, creature type decks.
You've got to look, Chris. I like Panromanicon a lot, but Throne already ends with the N. You're right there. It's a Panthronomicon. It's like it's right there.
Panthronomicon. Yeah, you're right. It is
Romanomicon. You could do both parts of Roman and just drop the G. Speak like me down here in the South. Romanicon.
Or go with me here. Pan.
Oh, he's got to write it down, folks. You know it's going to be serious if he's got to write it down.
Throne.
This is Jake's version of sounding it out.
Panthrone harmonica. Even.
Okay, we're moving on after that one.
Are you sure?
Did you see Tarian's Soul Cleaver, everybody? It's a 1-mana artifact that can be destroyed by that new removal we looked at earlier. Legendary artifact equipment for 1 mana with an equip of 2. Man, when they make spears that are 1 with an equip of 2, that's a little scary. Equipped creature has vigilance. Whenever another treasure token or creature is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature. I'm just kidding. It says whenever another artifact or creature is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature, and it's got an equip of 2. Yeah, I know we keep talking about aristocrats decks, but wowie, wow. Treasure decks, aristocrat decks, anything that has to do with sacrifice, anything that has to do with like consumption of your stuff to make bigger stuff.
Yeah.
This just, it goes hard with the Vigi, man. It goes hard with the Vigi.
Vigi is pretty sweet. Vigi is pretty sweet on this. Having only a 2-mana investment to give something vigilance, and then this ability is pretty sweet. It gives you an opportunity to build something up quickly. That 1 mana, I'm fine with that too. Only costs 1. What more can you ask for?
You can't ask for any more on this card because they already gave it to us. Because It doesn't even say you control, everybody. Look at the text. Notice that the words you control are absent from this card. It is literally any other artifact or creature put into a graveyard from the battlefield. Wee wah wah wee wah wah wee wah.
This on something with indestructible and just let it build up. That's like the base level of what you can do with this.
Wah wah wee wah is what I have to say about Tarian Soul Cleaver, because I think that equipment decks at the very least are going to want it.
Next up, we have a land. Restless Reef enters the battlefield tapped, and it's a man land. Add blue or black, but for 1 black, 1 blue, and 2 other in colon until end of turn, Restless Reef becomes a 4/4 blue and black shark creature with Death Touch. It's still a land. Whenever Restless Reef attacks, target player mills 4. This is a pretty strong card. I almost like this as a 1-of for mill. Like, just like this shark that gets in and mills 4 on the attack. This is pretty sweet, dude. This is an interesting man land, and it's, I mean, a 4/4 for 4. That's pretty sweet to have tacked onto a land.
Death Touch at instant speed, dude. This is a blocker. This is the best blocker, man. It's missing reach or flying, and it would be the ultimate blocker. It's just so hissing Quagmire. That was one from Battle for Zendikar. That's the only other man land with Death Touch. Restless Reef is the second ever man land with Death Touch.
I mean, like, this is the, like, this gives me such strong control vibes. This makes me think, like, there's going to be, commander aside, this makes me feel like there's going to be a standard deck that wants this card.
Right.
This seems like just play control and then you win with like some big creature or Restless Reef, and that's enough, Yep,
you can win that way. It gives you more options to stay open with, because you could cast your 2-mana removal spell, but they're attacking in, they're already tapped out, they're not doing anything second main phase that we need to counter. Maybe we're in that situation. Okay, I'm just going to pay 4, animate, block, and kill that thing, save my removal spell, and now it's my turn. Right? It's just more options. Also, like, I know this is a commander video, but this is also so good in limited. If we were in two-headed, we would totally play this card, swing at the same person 3 times, and if you're late enough in the game, you're just going to mill them out. So, I mean, this card is good in a lot of different ways. It's just a good card. I like it. I think it's cool. Check out the other manlands too. They all have their like places, I believe. A few of them at least have homes. I just liked this one in Commander because it's a death toucher, and people are gonna forget, and maybe they've already used their takesy backsy for the game, and they declared attacks at you, and you're like, the trample's gonna get me a little lower, but I'm death touching here, so it is what it is.
Add what's going on with all of your lands over there into your vernacular, and just make that something that you ask all the time.
What lands do you have over there that do stuff?
Can you animate any lands and turn them into something with death touch? Well, now you can with Restless Reef.
That's exactly right. Sharkland, baby. Kitesail Larcenist.
A little Larcenist here. 1 blue and 2 other for a 2/3. And someone did say this just now. Prof is right. Everything has so much text on it. We have a human pirate. It's a 2/3, flying ward 1. When it ETBs, for each player, choose up to 1 other target artifact or creature that player controls. For as long as Kitesail Larcenist remains on the battlefield, chosen permanents become treasure artifacts. With tap, sack this artifact. We know what treasure does. And so this is going to turn your opponent's valuable permanents into treasure. And they're probably going to be like, oh man, I might have to just sacrifice this to cast another spell, in which case it's removal. If you can kill this thing, then great, you get your thing back.
I am perfectly fine with this thing coming out, distracting, and eating a targeted removal. Deal. Yeah. Each player also includes you, so you could hide a creature under this, prepping for a board wipe is kind of a little backdoor trick that you can do with this card. I also really love Obviously, we love that it says each player, so you're going to get something from each opponent, which is already insane for 3 mana. I know it's like a more temporary O-ring, but for artifacts and creatures specifically, it's kind of like a Journey to Nowhere or something else that'll remove an artifact. But each player is just insane. I love that it turns them into treasure because it tempts them to just sack it. Just use it. Ramp up. Go ahead and play your 5 mana enchantment. I played this on turn 3. You're getting an extra mana. You drop a mana on your turn. Boom. Drop your 5 mana enchantment. Go ahead. Sacrifice that thing that I took from you. I'm ramping you. Let's look at it that way. That's what I'm doing. I'm just helping you ramp. That would be like the trolley thing you say when you drop it. Yeah, it's just all around. This card is insane to me in Commander. Remove up to 4 things from the battlefield if you want to include yourself. Remove 1 thing from each opponent. I mean,
yeah, it's interesting that it doesn't say exile. It just says becomes.
Yeah, it just becomes a treasure.
Become treasure artifacts.
Right.
So you don't exile those things.
No.
So it's like they don't leave the battlefield and re-enter the battlefield. Is that correct? So if you do remove the Larcenist, they are just no longer that thing.
Right.
You don't get the ETBs back. Okay.
Correct.
So there is no like stack a beefy ETB under this thing and protect for yourself, and then when it gets removed, you're getting a big effect. That's not going to be part of this.
Yeah. I really like
this card. But it is still really good removal, and people are going to want to remove it. And it has Ward 1, which is really nice because that's just pesky.
Yeah, so I just think overall, really excellent card that a lot of people are going to play. Tishana's Tidebinder, Merfolk Wizard. 1 blue, 2 other. Flash speed. Here we go. 3/2. Enters the battlefield. Counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as Tishana's Tidebinder remains on the battlefield. I don't know about y'all, but if you've ever been blown out by a trick bind because you sacked a bunch of stuff to do the thing and the thing got countered or some stuff like that, bruh, 1 ring. Chris Pollock said it. We're on the same page. 1 ring. Nope. Counter the first one, and now that 1 ring is turned off until you answer my little baby wizard.
I'm probably like wrong on this, but this gives me CEDH vibes as well. I'm probably not going to play this in like my normal Commander deck. I think it's kind of narrow.
Oh, it's super sweaty.
It's very sweaty. And so for me, it doesn't really gravitate toward the kind of Commander that I'm going to play, but I do see how it fits as a good card. It has the F word on it, which is like the super offensive word right behind the C word. And so this is, this for me is probably a hard pass as far as like the kind of Commander that I want to play, but I definitely think it's good.
Can't play this as Commander, but I think that this, it's a sweaty little mean effect that's only going to make enemies, but I love a little trick bind type of stuff, man, and the fact that this turns it off after that, pretty freaking sweet. How about a legendary Bat God?
Yes, this is a pretty fun legendary Bat God that we have here, Jake, from among the other Bat Gods.
Good luck. I just want to say, before you get started, I just want to say good luck on this name. I just think good luck on the name, buddy.
It's Aclazotz, Deepest Betrayal.
Not bad.
Aclazotz.
Aclazotz.
From Aclazotz, Deepest Betrayal. We're going to
Hey, are you going into the gas station? Yeah, will you grab me a monster and a bag of Aclazotz?
Yeah, Aclazotz are great. Do you want the cherry ones or the sour apple ones?
No, not sour Aclazotz. I want some cherry Aclazotz, please, and some pretzels.
They have that new like black licorice mango flavor. Do you like that, or is the cherry good?
Gummy Aclazotz.
Yeah.
Cherry only, please. Thank you.
Everybody make sure that you're subscribed, because later on in 2024 and 2025, we are hoping to put together a Bat God tier list where we're going to go over all of the best Bat Gods that are like the top Bat God creatures in Commander. But for now, we're just going to talk to you about Aclazotz, Deepest Betrayal. 2 black, 3 other for a 4/4 flying lifelink. Whenever Aclazotz attacks, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card. I like drawing cards. Whenever opponent discards a land card, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. When Aots dies, return it to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control. What does it turn into? I hope it's a lot of text. Temple of the Dead. Oh yeah, this is that card. So it taps for black, or you can pay black and 2 for transform this card and activate only as a sorcery. Activate only if a player has 1 or fewer cards in hand. So yeah, pretty strong. You get that card back and then you get to play it again. It starts off as something really big, becomes something kind of tame, then you have to flip it back to get the value engine going again.
Yeah, I love this take on the god creature type in MTG. We've seen it as like indestructible. We've seen it as returns to your hand. We've seen it as returns to the battlefield. Now we've got turns into a land, then returns to the battlefield.
That's right.
I love this card a lot. Flying Lifelink, Excelente, attacks, trigger. I mean, I know that people give attack triggers a lot of crap, but how many times playing Commander games this last weekend, Jake, did you hear me playing whatever creature-based deck I was playing, and I'm like, all right, go to attacks, attack here, here, and here. Before blocks, we got some attack triggers to resolve. It just happens. Everybody goes, yeah, easy to remove, but how often is the board just clogged up and nobody can draw a targeted removal? Nobody can draw a board wipe. It happens.
That happens. That happens all the time. It makes me want to run like 20 removal spells.
You love removal spells and card draw, so it makes sense. And then it gives you value for discards. Creating 1/1 flyers, pretty sweet. And then the return. It's just such a little pesky creature. It's just going to keep going. I think that playing this in a discard deck, this is going to be one of the probably least played ones because it's just really brutal, especially the archetypes that it would be built into, which is just like tinybones.deck, put Aots in it. We got more discard stuff. We're making them discard. We're getting value off of it. Put it in Turgrid. Yep, I see it in chat. Matthias says put it in Turgrid. It's just going to go alongside other brutal cards, and so I think this will be a mean one, but it might not be the most played as a result of that. But speaking of everybody's favorite lozenge when you've got a sore throat, Bloodletter of Aots, black 1 for a 2/4 flying vampire demon. If an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life instead. This is an enchantment, y'all. I want it to be anyway. It may be just a creature, but we're going to play this as an enchantment. Last weekend, buddy of ours, Travis, was talking about these AoE decks that he's been putting together. And I gotta tell you, any of this wound reflection type stuff, there's a few archetypes that want it, and they want cards like this big time. And they want
this actually, I would consider putting this in Karavik as well because damages life loss. So this for me is fine. I would actually be fine if this just said Defender. Like, I don't even care. Like, it could just be a 2/4 Defender
creature enchantment style card.
Yeah, it's just a wound reflection on a stick. Yeah, so it's pretty sweet.
For your turn.
Pretty sweet.
Just to clarify, I saw this note in chat, and that's right. It's only on your turn. If an opponent will lose life during your turn.
Oh, well, that's okay. Yeah, so we could still work with it. We could still
tamer,
work with
but right. These decks still want this redundancy of effects.
This actually, that's pretty important. This to me then more comes into an aristocrats kind of zone where you're draining. I think that's probably where this wants to live, is just be part of the drain and make it that much more impactful. I do think that there's times in like Punisher where this is going to be fine, but I kind of like on Punisher where, it's like
everything that
things
happens.
are happening. Yeah, everything is happening all over the place. Yeah.
All over the place.
Still a strong card. Still a strong card.
Big thanks to our channel sponsor, Dragon Shield, the best sleeves in the entire multiverse. Make sure if you are getting sleeves for your next deck, you're using Dragon Shields. Check out the link below to take you directly to the website. Let's get back to it. Chat, people watching on YouTube after the fact, those are our picks for our favorite commander cards from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Let us know in the comments if you're watching this after the fact why you weren't here live and what card we missed that you really like for Commander from Lost Caverns of Ixalan.
That's right. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we will see you in the future on the Flippity. See you later, Warehouse.